You are in the jungle. I'm Matt Edwards. It is a Monday morning. The hangover has set in, right? The reality of yesterday and what almost was versus what actually was stings quite a bit on a Monday morning as the Bengals fall to 0-2 in Kansas City. There's so many aspects of that game. So often we get caught up on what happens at the end of games, and that makes sense because those are where, those are the highlights we remember. The Chiefs get a 26-25 win over the Bengals at the gun on a 51-yard field goal from Harrison Butker, who celebrated afterward with his wife, whose dress went down to her ankles. I'm not here to talk about that when it was 80-some degrees in Kansas City. What we will talk about are all the things that led up to that, all the things that will happen going forward because of that, as the Bengals sit at 0-2 right now. Familiar territory, not ideal territory, but also not territory that they cannot overcome. So we'll get to all that. Look, I want to start here. I told myself leading up to this game throughout the week that I could deal with the Bengals losing. I could deal with them falling to 0-2 against the Chiefs as long as it was a close game, as long as it was another one of those classic battles we've come to expect. I didn't so much feel that way last night. As I slept it off, I kind of realized it's fine. It's not ideal, but what we were worried about a week ago today, after they absolutely laid an egg against New England, is all gone away now. The Bengals are still the biggest threat. The team that was on the field in Kansas City yesterday wearing stripes is still the biggest threat to knock off the Chiefs in the AFC. I don't see how anyone could claim otherwise at this point. As long as Joe Burrow is taking the snaps, there's no bigger threat. Not in the AFC, in the NFL. There's no one the Chiefs fear more in the NFL than the Cincinnati Bengals. That did not change. Now, they've got work to do going forward. The great news of all the bad news yesterday, the great news is that the Baltimore Ravens are also 0-2. That's massive. That's massive. You just want to win the division, get in the playoffs, and see what happens. We know the Bengals can win in Buffalo. We know they can win in Kansas City. And if they can win there, they can win it anywhere in the NFL. So let's keep trucking forward. Let's see this team still fight for the AFC North. Look, the Steelers are 2-0. No one believes in them. The Browns are 1-1. They'll find a way to wet the bed as well. The Ravens and Bengals, the only two teams who actually can win this division, are 0-2. Even after 2 weeks, Ravens have a much more difficult schedule going forward. We'll get into all that later in the show. But like I said, I told myself I'd be okay with a loss as long as it was close. And look, if you're one of those people who wants to say, oh, I don't like moral victories, I'm not on the team. I watched the game from my couch like you probably did. Am I into moral victories? No. Last night after the game, I felt like I had got dumped in high school with a girl I thought I was going to be with forever. You know that feeling of when someone you thought was your best friend, you see them hanging out at the movies with two other people and you didn't even know about it? That's how I felt. I don't really know what these things feel like because I don't have a lot of emotions when it comes to human interaction, but I've seen them happen in movies, so I assume they exist with everyone out there. Look, I got to turn my text notifications off at this point. Had to do that during the game as well. You guys got to chill out with texting me, but that's okay. We're all friends. Some of you are cool. Let's start here. Let's start with that penalty at the end of the game. Let's get it out of the way. It sucks, absolutely. Here's what bothered me about it. Well, there's a couple things that bothered me about it. One, it's a Hail Mary play. Is it your classic Hail Mary lob to the end zone from 60 yards out? No. But in the sense that it's a desperate act to extend the game, it's essentially a Hail Mary. They never throw flags on those kind of plays. And Dejon Anthony, the 7th-round rookie, by the way, let me repeat that, 7th-round rookie. So let's not absolutely crush him for coming up and making that play in the big spot. He's earned the right to be on the field. I heard some people say, what's a 7th-round rookie doing out there? I don't know, but I trust Lou Anarumo's judgment against the Kansas City Chiefs. If you look at his track record, he's going for the ball. And again, I still can't decide if that should have been a penalty or not. I really can't. What I can say is that more often than not, that is not called in those situations. When it's a long, unlikely play, right? 4th and 16, I don't know what the percentage is to complete that, to convert that, but it's not high. So Dejon Anthony, the 7th-round rookie, is going for the ball. Does he get there early? Absolutely. That's an argument. And again, I literally cannot decide if it should have been a penalty or not. It's not my job to decide from my couch if it should have been a penalty or not. It's the NFL's job to be consistent enough with these calls that we all know if it should have been a penalty or not. And that's maybe the big, if you want to go out to the macro view, that's the big frustrating thing about this. Kind of like with the Jamar hip tackle, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, the hip drop that got him the 15-yard penalty. We don't really know if Jamar Chase doesn't know what should and shouldn't be a penalty, how are any of the rest of us supposed to know? And you can, discount the fans all you want. The fans watching at home are the reason that the TV bills are in the billions of dollars, and the billions of dollars are the reason that guys like Jamar Chase are going to make $35, $40 million a year. So it's all intertwined. Don't discount your audience. Don't discount yourself, assuming you're a fan listening to this. I'm kind of going off the rails here earlier. I get it. But who knows? I mean, and I put this out there yesterday on the old X machine. Like, if you've watched enough football, you've seen that play several times. You've seen it get called a penalty several times. You've seen it not called because the player is going for the ball several times. That sucks. It sucks that it came down to that. Now, what we're not going to do is blame a 7th-round rookie. What I will say is Zach Carter absolutely got held like crazy on that final play. Zach Carter, your backup, 3rd string, whatever he is at this point, defensive tackle, because the Bengals are so battered on the defensive line, he was absolutely held on that play. That's frustrating, but whatever. Holding can be called on any play. The Chiefs had a penalty go against them the play before. I get that things balance out. But the Chiefs put themselves in that 4th and 16 situation. It's not like there was a 1st and 10 with 5 seconds left and there was head-to-head one play. The Chiefs had 3 opportunities to convert a first down, didn't do it, and on the 4th one, the officials make the decision. That's what bothers me about it. Let it play out on the field. No one's trying to commit a penalty. It wasn't a flagrant rip-them-down foul. Kansas City had 3 opportunities at home with the greatest quarterback on the planet, couldn't get it done. 4th play comes along, the officials say, let's give him a shot. That's what bothers me about it. You can argue all day whether or not the actual collision that occurred was, by rule, pass interference, and there's really good arguments either way. But what you can't argue is that Patrick Mahomes, the undisputed best quarterback in the known universe, had 3 opportunities to get 10 yards, and they couldn't do it. On the 4th opportunity, when they needed 16, the refs bail them out. That's what bothers me. Not necessarily the 4th down play, but the 3 before where they had the opportunity, didn't do it, and still get a flag. Let the players on the field decide it. And I know there was a penalty against Kansas City on that drive. I mean, Trey Hendrickson got held on every play. I know you can't call it on every play. I don't know, man. It's just frustrating to see it come down to that. It's very frustrating. Now, if they don't call it, Kansas City fans are going crazy today. So, it's frustrating to see it come down to that. But they got themselves into that. So now what I want to go into next is that, as frustrating as that is, and we could talk about that all day, and everyone, I think, pretty much has been talking about it since 7:30 last night. Instead of looking at the things that the Bengals cannot control, because they can't control that flag, because no one really knows what pass interference is in the NFL anymore, what the Bengals can control are the things that led up to that. Evan McPherson, making good money now and having the weight on his shoulders he does, can make an extra point. We all love Evan McPherson. He's done a lot of great things. There's games in this series, the 5 games of Burrow and Mahomes going head-to-head that the Bengals probably don't win if not for his clutchness. But you got to make an extra point. He didn't miss a 55-yard field goal. He missed an extra point. If he had made that extra point, this game goes to overtime, and who knows what happens. That's something you can point at. Point at the things that the Bengals can control. Joe Burrow, back-to-backyard Burrow, love seeing it. But he's got to know to not fumble the football in that situation, in a close game when you're winning the turnover battle, and they did win the turnover battle. You got to hang on to the football, scoop and score. I mean, the Chiefs' touchdowns yesterday come from a backup right tackle and You get a backup right tackle and a defensive touchdown. 2 guys pushing 3 Bills scoring touchdowns. Fluky game, sure, but they all have been when it comes to these two. Chiefs fans are probably saying, who's this Yoshivas guy scoring touchdowns? I mean, the Stars did not a whole lot yesterday. Travis Kelce had 1 catch for 5 yards. Jamar Chase, a very frustrated Jamar Chase, had what? 4 catches for 35 yards. It was a weird game, but you got to make sure that you don't hand things over. You can't control what the refs do. We should all know as NFL fans by now that the refs are going to do dumb things every game. There's going to be things you don't like. There's going to be things you do like. And the things you do like, you're not going to talk about nearly as much as the things you don't like. Jamar Chase, speaking of which, takes what would have been a 3rd and 7. The ref gave him Jamar had a leash on that one, right? Like, he got in the ref's face, didn't get the flag. Joe pulls him back. He goes back, gets a flag. 3rd and 27 turns into a 3rd and 22. Bengals are just lucky after that to get in field goal range. Those are the things from Joe Burrow, who, again, the Bengals are nothing without him, but he has the expectations for himself. I guarantee you no one's kicking themselves harder today than Joe Burrow over that play. Same with Evan McPherson. And Jamar knows better too. But those are 3 core guys who have got to make the plays. I'm not, the 7th round rookie getting a pass interference call. That's something you live with. That's something you got to have guys like that on the field sometimes, and they're going to screw up more often than your stars. Your stars can't make those plays. So those are the things that I guarantee you are gnawing more at the core guys Joe Burrow is not thinking about DeJohn Anthony today. He's thinking about the fumble. He's thinking about, Jamar and Evan. I mean, all these guys are thinking about the things they could have done differently. So there's a lot of things to be upset about. I don't even know if upset's a word. It's just the Bengals played so well. The Bengals played better than the Chiefs on Sunday and still couldn't get the win. And that's a testament to how damn good the Kansas City Chiefs are right now. They've won 3 of the last 5 Super Bowls and been to 4 of the last 5. It's not a coincidence. I mean, they find ways to get it done. Now, their only kryptonite to this point, if you can even call it that, as close as anything they've had to kryptonite, are the Cincinnati Bengals. Burrow is still 3-2 against Mahomes. Bengals look really good. Let's harp on that for a second. This is a big reason I wanted to record this morning, because I don't know if I could have said this last night. The Cincinnati Bengals, I said this at the top of the show, are still the biggest threat, not in the AFC, but in the NFL, to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs. Zach Taylor sets the tone early. They go for it on 4th down. They get it. They end up converting that into a field goal. Players love that kind of stuff. He did the same thing in the Super Bowl. They didn't convert it. The players, let me tell you for a fact, you want to put a fire under the players early in a game of that magnitude. You want to throw gas on the fire that's already burning. Go for it on 4th down and convert. That's your head coach telling his guys he loves them and he believes in them. And you can bet, say what you want about Zach Taylor as an X's and O's guys. Those are the kinds of things that keep your locker room fighting throughout the game. Those are the type of things that are the reason that locker room is as tight as it is. Zach Taylor, I'll defend him forever. He is a great CEO. I don't know if he's a great X's and O's guys, but he is a great manager of players and manager of that locker room. And he's got excellent coordinators, or at least he has. We'll see what's up with Dan Pitcher. He's only 2 games in. I mean, obviously, I hope the best for him, but you got to have a guy. We loved him as a quarterback coach, but you got to have a guy do it before we can say it. So Bengals look good. Yeah, man. I mean, just a whole different team than we saw against New England. And maybe they were overlooking New England in week 1. Maybe they were already looking ahead to Kansas City. I mean, 2 days before the Bengals even played the Patriots, Patrick Mahomes in the locker room, I saw the NFL Films video this week. He told his guys, hey, we got to stay focused. We know who's coming in here next. So just like I said, Cincinnati's the biggest threat in the NFL to Kansas City, I think Kansas City believes the same thing. Right? I don't think there's any doubt about that. Whether or not anyone will say that publicly, I don't know. But you can tell Kansas City, when the Bengals come rolling in, when the Bengal Tigers come strolling in there, they know what's up. So I don't know. Maybe they were overlooking New England. Maybe they just needed to knock the rust off. And that goes back to, should guys be playing in the preseason? I don't know. But the team we know the Bengals can be, was in Kansas City yesterday. And that's the NFL. Like, that's the playoffs, right? That was a playoff atmosphere, playoff style game. You can do all the things right all through the season. You get to the AFC Championship. We saw this in 2022. You get to the AFC Championship and a push out of bounds costs you a shot at overtime. Similar yesterday with far lower stakes, right? You get all the way to the end of the game with a lead, and a 7th round rookie on a 50-50 flag is the difference in I just went over the actual differences. But, you slug back and forth, and it comes down to who has the ball last. Burrow and Mahomes have gone head-to-head 5 times now. In 4 of those games, the final play of the game has decided the game. So whoever gets the ball last in this series, that's the way it goes. And unfortunately, if you're on defense, you get the flags far more than when you're on offense. And that's when you're playing Patrick Mahomes, a 15-yard penalty or whatever it is can be the difference in a win and a loss. So is there a lot this is a headache game because the Bengals had it. The Bengals had a massive game, and if both these teams are 12-5 at the end of the season, and the Chiefs get the tiebreaker, and they're the 1 seed, and the Bengals are the 2 seed, or the 2 and the 3, whatever you want to call it, that's when it'll really hurt. Right now, it's annoying, but when the Bengals get back to 3-2, 4-2, as they're going to, that's when this will, kind of fade away. That's when, at the end of the season is when we come back to this. At the end of the season, when we have to hope the Denver Broncos can somehow pull off a miracle against the Chiefs so the Bengals can get a better seed in the playoffs, that's when this will really shine. So the Bengals fall to 0-2. Let's give out the game ball. Maybe about as easy as a game ball as one can ever give out. Trey Hendrickson, monster. I don't even know what his stat line was, but every play he was torturing Patrick Mahomes. Just Mahomes had to know where he was. That rookie left tackle or right tackle, he might be on the practice squad this week. He just ate him alive. He was getting choked on that rip move more often than not, which is another murky area with penalties. You can do it for 2 steps, but not 3. I don't know. But Trey Hendrickson, I think, was probably the best player on the field yesterday. He keeps getting better and better. 2 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss, 4 tackles overall. Just an animal back there. Bengals had 2 sacks on the day. They were both Trey Hendrickson. By the way, Jermaine Pratt with 16 tackles. Bengals were all over the place. Again, they played. That's the thing. It's encouraging. If that team we saw in Kansas City yesterday can show up for the next 15 games, the Bengals go 15-2, 14-3. Maybe they get another bad penalty. Maybe it's 13-4. If that team we saw in Kansas City shows up yesterday, holy smokes, look out. They're a wrecking ball. Two interceptions, one by Akeem Davis-Gaither. That was nice to see. He's a guy who bust his tail, earned that captain spot on special teams this year. And Cam Taylor-Britt, holy smokes, play of the year. OBJ, have a seat. Again, ultimately, maybe, I don't know. I hope that one doesn't get forgotten, but that was just a snag. He got burnt by Rashee Rice. He really didn't even get burnt early on for the first Chiefs touchdown. It was just an awesome throw and catch. He was only a step behind him, but he came back and made up for it with that pick. Just, the Bengals have dudes. The Bengals absolutely have dudes. Sure, there are some weak spots, and that defensive line right now is absolutely mauled with injury. Sam Hubbard had to play some snaps at defensive tackle. They had Zach Carter in there. They had Jay Tufile in there. But the game ball yesterday for me goes to Trey Hendrickson, who is just a machine, and he gets the 2 sacks, but he was living in that backfield. Patrick Mahomes, I'd have to go back and look. I don't know if those pressures really... I don't know. At any rate, anyone who watched that game knew Trey Hendrickson was back there all day. He gets the game ball, just a monster, just a machine back there, and he'll need to continue to do that all year long because the Bengals need a pass rush, and they've not really had much of one outside of him so far. So need some other guys to step up. We'll see it. Let's go to hit, stand, double down. We'll add a fold into it today. I will hit. I don't even know if this makes sense to most of you. I'll take more of Cam Taylor-Britt. I said in the preseason, I think this is the year he ascends into a top 5 cornerback. Yesterday, I mean, you get the highlight play. That kind of helps. Sure, he got burnt on one. He didn't even really get burnt. He just got beat from an awesome throw and catch. Rashee Rice had a step on him. Rashee Rice, you probably won't have to worry about him in January. Maybe he's suspended by that point. But, Cam Taylor-Britt's he's there, man. He's talking. He's backing it up. They're going to have to pay him eventually. And, yeah, he got beat. But, when you're putting one-on-one with the best receiver week in and week out, you're going to get beat sometimes. So we'll hit more. We'll keep it coming with Cam Taylor-Britt. My stock on him continues to rise. Let's stand here on Charlie Jones returning punts. He's kind of still living off of the punt return touchdown he had a year ago. And it was awesome and it was great. But week 1, he has the fumble that cost the Bengals big. Yesterday, maybe he was not feeling that confident after the fumble. He just didn't seem, with the playmakers the Bengals have, with the shifty guys they have, and we saw Jermaine Burton return a punt in the preseason. Chase Brown returns kickoffs and is pretty solid at it. I just don't know that there's not a better option. So we'll see where that goes. We're going to stand there because, again, punt return for a touchdown last year. He's shifty in space. We've seen him do things. But right now, I'm kind of on the fence. We're on the fence with Charlie Jones returning punts. My double down of the day, double down of the week on these tight ends, man. We've seen for years that the best, and I remember saying this years ago when this was a good old football podcast and I talked about the entire league. You go back and you look at Super Bowl winners, including last year's, it's about 50-50 on whether or not they have a star receiver. They all have studs at tight end. Look at the 2 teams who were in it last year, San Francisco and Kansas City, Travis Kelce and George Kittle. It's not a coincidence. Look at those New England teams with Gronk. Year in and year out, the teams in the Super Bowl have stud tight ends, and the Bengals right now, they don't necessarily have one stud, although I think Mike Gesicki could kind of, he's not going to be Kelce or Kittle, but we saw yesterday, he's a beast. 7 catches for 91 yards, did have another drop that you don't love. But between him and Eric All, the rookie at Iowa who fell to the 4th round because of injury, if he can stay on the field, that combo, that's good stuff. That's very good stuff. That's a reason that if you see those two start to get into a groove where they're both, one of them every week has 4 to 6 catches for 60 yards and the other one has 3 to 4 for 30 to 40 yards. If you're getting 100 yards a week out of your tight ends, and it seems like the Bengals really can with this group, and don't forget about Drew Sample, who just keeps trucking along, kind of the 2nd round pick that we made fun of for years, and he's still not great. He's never going to live up to that 2nd round hype. But for your 3rd tight end, he can block great. He does everything you want him to do. Does he have the physical tools to be great? No. But he does a lot of things you love, and with those guys, you got to feel great about your tight ends right now. And oh, by the way, T. Higgins should be back next week, it looks like. So between T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, if you can have extra tight ends with those guys, sky's the limit for what this offense can do. I'll double down on the tight ends. Give me more. And I know you don't fold in the game of blackjack, but I'm going to fold this week. I'm about done with Trent Brown already after week 2. The Bengals' big right tackle, 6'8", 500 pounds, whatever he is. And maybe he's just old. I mean, he's getting up there in years. But there were plays yesterday in the crucial parts of the game where after, he's old, he's 31, where after he was done with his guy and he put his guy down, he's just moseying around. Like, this is not the preseason. This is not the 2nd quarter against Carolina in 2 weeks. This is 4th quarter at Arrowhead Stadium against your biggest rival. I mean, come on. Show some hustle. That's the issue with me. He's not been great as a tackle. You can kind of live with that because Amarius Mims is eventually going to replace him. But can you show some effort? Can you show that you want to be in Cincinnati, that you want to do more, that you want to try and win? So, I don't know. Frustrating to see that. There was I think it was a 3rd and goal with the with the Zach Moss. I don't know if it was 3rd and goal, 2nd and goal, but Zach Moss is trying to create something on the outside, and, the other offensive linemen you see after they're done with their guys, they're hustling over there, and Trent Brown is just at a snail's pace walking over. Drives you insane. So that's that. Give me more Cam Taylor-Britt. I'll keep my stock on him. I'll stand on Charlie Jones returning punts. Just got to see better out of him. I think I don't know. It's just, again, we'll stand. We'll see where it happens. We'll see what happens, but I'm kind of on the fence right now about where that is. Double down on these tight ends. Love them. Let's see more of them. I mean, I don't know that you really can see much more of them, but let's keep it going, I should say. And then my expectations for Trent Brown at this point are done. Let's go out of the jungle. I need like a little jingle. Again, I said this at the top of the show, maybe the best news all weekend. And yeah, it sucks that the Bengals are 0-2. Baltimore's 0-2 as well. That's just fantastic news for the Bengals. They both lost to Kansas City. They've both lost a game they shouldn't lose, both at home. Bengals lost to New England at home. The Baltimore Ravens lose to the Las Vegas Raiders at home. Everyone's square. Everyone's square. And if you look, there's a handful of AFC teams now. Let me pull it up here. Who I know Jacksonville's at 0-2. Thanks. I guess it doesn't really help because one of those losses was to Cleveland, but Jacksonville's 0-2. I mean, the Colts are 0-2. And again, these aren't teams that the Bengals necessarily have to worry about, but the more AFC losses, everyone in the AFC South is 0-2 except the Texans, who are 2-0. Because the truth of the matter is, as we sit here and say this, Baltimore fans are saying the same thing. They're also saying, hey, it's great that the Bengals are 0-2. Either the Bengals or Ravens, I would still bet good money. One of the two is going to be a wild card team. The other one is going to win the division. I know that the Steelers are 2-0. No one believes in the Steelers. Once they get into division play, that record will continue to fall. So that's the best news of the weekend right there, is that Baltimore loses to Las Vegas. And that's where we're at. Cleveland wins in Jacksonville. I don't know what to think of Jacksonville. Here's the thing, man. Most of my friends are Browns fans. And growing up where I did, it's more Brownstown. They've all been telling me after week 1 how awful Deshaun Watson was. So with them playing at 1 and the Bengals playing at 4:25, I was like, I want to take a look. He looked pretty solid. He didn't look like Houston Deshaun Watson, who went to the AFC Championship. And I realized all the off-the-field stuff, he's a piece of trash, and that's what it is. But as far as quarterback play, he looked pretty good in Jacksonville, and the Browns go to 1-1 now. Again, not worried about them. They'll figure out a way to screw it up. That's not me trying to be mean. Honest Browns fans will say the same things. The dorks on Twitter might not say that, but honest Browns fans, the ones who live and die with this team and have through Derek Anderson and Tim Couch, they know the same thing. So they'll figure out a way. Steelers 2-0. Again, Steelers, they'll hover around. I mean, they'll still be in it in December. That's what they do. But when push comes to shove at the end of the season, I don't think anyone actually believes that they are going to win the AFC North, which is fun to say, isn't it? After the 20 years of torture they inflicted on both Ohio teams, it's nice to see the Steelers be 2-0 and be like, yeah, it'll be fine. Famous last words, right? So, all right, let's get into one for the road. One for the road, we are going to go literally down the road. I guess not literally. I guess it's figuratively. This schedule, this is another thing you hang your hat on, because you look at what the Bengals have to deal with versus the team they're worried about. I mean, let's look at Baltimore first. They go to Dallas this weekend. They host the Bills, and then they come to Cincinnati. Their next 3, just a meat grinder. Bengals, on the other hand, get Washington at home, the dreadful Carolina Panthers, and then host Baltimore at home. And then they go to New York to take on the Giants, who also look like hot trash. The Bengals can easily get to I don't want to say easily, nothing's easy, but the Bengals can get to 4-2 here. It's very doable. The only one they should even really be a game at the 2-minute warning in the next 4 weeks is Baltimore. But the Bengals at 0-2 host Washington, who's 1-1 now, and Jaden Daniels looks fun and all that, but there's zero reason for the team that just had the number 2 draft pick to beat the Bengals at home on a Monday night. when Corey Dillon and Tim Krumrie get inducted into the Ring of Honor, by the way. That'll be fun. And then the Panthers, who look like they legitimately could go not win a game this year. Like, if the over-under right now is 3.5 on the Panthers, I'm taking the under on the wins. They look awful. So you can't sleep on any team, though. But right there, the Bengals should have no issue getting to 2-2. And then you've got Baltimore, going to be a tough one. But in Cincinnati, it's always a tough one. Win that game. Go to New York, get a win, and you're at 4-2. Just like that. And then you go to Cleveland. I mean, I'm pretty much reading the whole schedule at this point. But you can sit at 4-2, go to Cleveland. By that point, the Browns will have fallen apart. And then you get back-to-back home games with the Eagles and the Raiders. So, I mean, right there, let's say you take 2 of those 3. Let's say you slip up on 1, 6-3. I mean, not ideal. But look, every team has, I mean, as much as you hate the loss in Kansas City yesterday for how it happened, that's about as good a loss as you can have. You look awesome. You go to the defending champ's house and you give them all they can take. Again, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm not into moral victories. I know that like people who think they're tough and cool say that. You're not on the team. You don't own a helmet. Chill out. I'm not into moral victories either. What I am into is a team that just went toe-to-toe and it was one play that decided the game. Next time, hopefully in January, that play falls in the favor of the Bengals. These things have a way of balancing out in the NFL. So we'll get there, but the Bengals right now could really use a nice 4-game win streak. And, oh, by the way, T. Higgins went through pregame warmups on Sunday. I saw that video from my good pal Jeremy Rao down at Fox 19 in Cincinnati, and he should be back. That'll be quite the boost. The Bengals need it right now. They need guys on the field. The injuries on the defensive line, just brutal. Haven't seen anything quite yet on B.J. Hill, but we'll figure that out. Sheldon Rankins went to the locker room as well. Just absolutely battered. I mean, Miles Murphy was already there. Cam Sample has been out. He'll be out the rest of the year due to a preseason injury. Miles Murphy can come back in a couple weeks, and they need dudes, man. I don't know if they're going to go out. I mean, Zach Carter and Jay Tuafile were playing in there at the end of the game with Sheldon Rankins and B.J. Hill out, so they got to figure something out there. But that's where we're at. Rough week. It was one that stung last night. It's one of those ones you go to bed and you can feel the irritation and rage in your body. I don't know that rage is the answer, but it, feels like your fish just died. It sucked. But the good news is that team we saw in week 1 is not the team we're going to have this year. The team we saw in Kansas City that can go toe-to-toe with anyone in the NFL and will go toe-to-toe with everyone in the NFL as they did yesterday. After all, one team has to win the game. We're going to see more of that team. This team's going to be okay. I feel a lot better. I feel much better after this loss than I did after last week. So the Bengals just have to go on a run here and make it work. So, all right, let's get out of here. Let's wrap it up. I will have another episode out on Friday as we get ready for the Monday night game against Washington. Hey, do me a big favor. If you're listening on Spotify, please go to the show page and give it a rating. You can even rate it poorly if you want to, but I'd like to get a few more ratings on there. If you enjoyed this half hour of content that you get free of charge, that would be nice of you. And whatever you're doing, if you can rate it on there, that would be cool. If you don't want to, that's fine too. My life will go on and yours will as well. So same thing with YouTube. Make a comment, subscribe, do whatever you want or don't. Life goes on for all of us. And I'm having fun doing this. I hope people are having fun listening to it. I love getting the messages and tweets and text about the show. Fun to chat with you about it. So hope you like doing it. Hope you like listening. I like doing it. It's In the Jungle. My name's Matt Edwards. If you want to talk to me, I'm at Matt Edwards on the X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it in the year of 2024. And we'll go from there. I need to get some other social media. I'm just old and have a lot on my plate. So we'll get there. It's In the Jungle. Tell a friend. Tell your pal. Tell your uncle and your aunt and your cousin too. We'll do it again. We'll see you on Friday. It's In the Jungle. I'm Matt Edwards. Thank you so much for tuning in.